It's time now for County-Wide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Brad Miller as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives here in Yavapai County. And now, here's today's County-Wide.
Welcome to County-Wide. I'm Paul David. Very good to have you in studio with us today. A familiar face will be joining me here in just a moment. Al Cornell is in studio, not so much to talk about YCSO search and rescue and how to be safe out in the forest, but Monday was Veterans Day, November 11th, and Al came in to kind of share. He shared a little bit of a story with me last year, and it made me think to myself, I want to get Al to come in and talk a little bit about his tour in Vietnam. And then he took a return trip just last year with a friend, and he had some interesting, I guess, stories to tell about your return trip. So thanks for coming in, Al.
Yeah, my pleasure.
As always, it's very great to see you. So let's get started. Your first tour, when did that start? And how were you drafted? Did you join?
Okay, I came in the Army as a second lieutenant and planning really to stay 2 years, get out. And after the first year, the Army dangled that bait in front of me that a lot of us young guys can't resist. And they said, how would you like to go to flight school? And I thought, wow, you'll send me to flight school? And they said, yes, if you can pass all the physical and the tests and all that. So I took all that battery of stuff and passed it all. And in my second year, they sent me to flight school. My first year, I ended up in Korea for a year, came back, and then went immediately to flight school, which is almost a year. And that really hooked me. That was like setting a hook in a big bass in the lake. I really got into the flying. I had, since I had come back from Korea, they didn't want to send me on another tour without a family kind of thing. I was married. And so they gave me 1 year of respite at Fort Rucker, Alabama. They made me a flight instructor. In an old aircraft, a Korean War aircraft called an H-19, but you know, they taught us how to fly and how to teach in it, and then I started teaching new people coming in, and then it was about 10 months later when I did get my orders and got sent to Vietnam, and I just made captain. I was a junior captain.
What year is this?
And this was in '66.
Okay.
In well, it's actually September '66. I arrived over there. And immediately flew lift helicopters. You know, you lift troops into landing zones and things like that. Did that for about 2 months, and then transitioned into gunships, which is at that time it was a B model Huey. The lift aircraft were by this time called D model Hueys, and gunships were B and C model Hueys, and we had B model Hueys, and they just put rockets and machine guns and 40-millimeter grenade launchers on all these aircraft, and your mission was primarily, it's a slow aircraft. You're flying at 80 knots, and so you generally flew pretty low because you minimized your vulnerability at that speed. And we were to suppress the enemy around any of our friendly units, which was your function there. Suppress, and when the landing zone people go in or they're taking people out of a landing zone, you fly the perimeter of it and make sure that everyone gets in or gets out as safely as possible.
Sure.
And the interesting aspect of that is the unit I was assigned to as a gunship pilot, the other 3 platoons of that company did not have lift missions with troops. They had all kinds of other logistics missions and VIP missions and things like that. So we were farmed out to other units. We flew for the 199th Infantry Brigade regularly. We flew for a variety of Vietnamese Army divisions and Vietnamese or Army, U.S. Army combined operations. And then in November, I guess October, they took 5 of our aircraft and crews and moved us up to Dong Ha, which is right near the border with North Vietnam. And we actually flew for the Marine Corps. They had no gunships in that area, and they were trying to do insertions and did not have the ability to suppress for their insertions of their troops. So we took 5 B-model gunships and crews up there and flew for them for 2 months up there, and then Marine Corps pilots started coming in, and we would put them in the other seat and train them to fly with us.
While you're doing the job.
And then their aircraft started coming in. They started
Wow.
getting Hueys that were armed. And then once they got their own fleet of armed aircraft, then we were released to go back to our original unit back in the South. And so that was a very interesting time to fly with the Marines, and thoroughly enjoyed working with them. Good, well-motivated troops on the insertions and in and out, getting them in, getting them out, and all that. And in an area that was very rugged, very mountainous, and awful weather. Almost every day was a 200-foot ceiling or worse. And just it was in the monsoon season.
Okay, monsoon. Okay.
Yeah, but boy, helicopters work in the monsoons.
Now, when you went over there, what was your knowledge of the country and the people and the culture?
Yeah, very good question. At that point, they gave us no training at all in the country, or about the culture, about the people, the language, any of that. About the nearest thing to training were people in special forces. They would get Vietnamese language training and cultural training and things, which because they worked in the villages with these people. But we got nothing at all, and never thought that much about it. I remember landing once in a while near a village and wondering what it was like in there. Some of them were like Montagnard villages up in the highlands, and we'd land and we'd see them walking around in a distance, all painted with ochre paint on their faces and things. It was really quite impressive. But we had to stay with our aircraft.
You had a job to do.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then, as we talked about before, I made a return trip, and I was stunned about my my lack of knowledge of Vietnam when I went back. How much I learned in just traveling from Hanoi down to Saigon for 15 days, a day or two in every town, 3 days in Hanoi, probably 3 or 4 days in Saigon. Saigon, by the way, is Ho Chi Minh City, is the whole city. But Saigon is still used as the name of the center part of the city. So it's not like they got rid of that name. They just expanded the name of the entire metropolis to Ho Chi Minh.
Now, when your first trip over there, did you stop at these larger cities and see them?
I saw Saigon.
Okay.
I saw Hue.
What were they like at that time, back in '66, '67?
Well, they were just bustling metropolises of you know. Actually, I had been in some other Asian cities like Manila and places like that, and they all seemed about the same. You know, just a lot of activity, a lot of people riding bicycles rather than driving cars, and a lot of mass transportation, and just
people going about their lives like we do here, I would imagine.
Like a town of ants, you know, everybody but I knew so little about Saigon, and then or Vietnam, and then to go back and
should we take our break first before we go back for your visit?
Yeah.
I think the first half we've kind of explained your first trip over there a little bit, of course, and then we'll take our break and come back and talk about your return trip with your friend and talk about what you noticed and the differences. Al Cornell's in the studio today. We're doing kind of a show for Veterans Day, which was Monday, November 11th. Al was in the Vietnam War. We'll stick around. Countywide, we'll be back in just a moment.
A full life, measured in seats, starts with the right ones early on. Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Learn how to prevent deaths and injuries by using the right car seat for your child's age and size.
Know what?
What?
Since I got adopted, I've learned a lot about these humans.
I know. I mean, check out these two. It's Flirt City over here.
Yeah, I noticed that. It looks like my human is definitely into your human.
Oh, look! I think she's getting his number.
Nice.
Your human's got some sweet moves.
Takes after his dog. Oh, look, they're doing that thing where they put their arms around each other.
She kicked up a leg. It's like in the movies.
That's awesome. Looks like we're going to be hanging out a little bit more.
One of the areas still maturing in an adolescent brain is the prefrontal cortex. So when we take drugs, we alter key motivational circuits, changing the wiring needed for the cognitive function of the brain. Until we can't totally deal with things like memory, thinking things out, and even learning stuff.
The signs are there. So is our help. Visit the partnership at drugfree.org for practical advice on coping with teen drug use.
When you're out there, there's no telling what you'll find.
I see it! I see it! Oh, look at you.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org.
Welcome back to Countywide. I'm Paul David. Vietnam veteran Al Cornell in studio today talking about his initial tour over there. You did 2 tours. And then we don't have time to go back and talk about the first or second tour, but I do want to go into your return trip. Tell us about your return trip, who you went with, and kind of how that played out. You said, you were just telling me before we started here that your friend talked you into going back there.
Yeah, one night at a search and rescue meeting, Pat Murphy, who is right now the captain of our unit, search and rescue unit, said to me, Al, would you ever be interested in going back to Vietnam? And I said, well, I don't know. I'm not sure. He said, well, I've been back twice already. Oh, wow. And he said, you won't believe what a wonderful trip it is. He said, would you like to go? And I said, well, I'm willing to. And so we set it up. We went with a company that does overseas tours. And he and I drove down to Phoenix, from Phoenix to LA, LA to Bangkok, Bangkok then to Saigon, and no, Bangkok to Hanoi. We started our tour in Hanoi. Okay. And yeah, I was, I don't know, I guess I was a little bit apprehensive because you think about all the bad publicity that came out of the war in the U.S., you would think, well, it must have been that much worse in Vietnam about it, especially after Saigon was eventually overrun in 1975, we had to pull out. And what are their feelings about us today? And I was just stunned at the reception. Starting out in Hanoi, I expected it to be a dark, gloomy place with this communist Politburo running everyone's lives, and it wasn't like that at all. I mean, got into town and got off the bus from the airport, and it just a boiling, teeming town of people going everywhere, motorcycles and motor scooters and cars, and I looked at the guide and I said, I can't cross the street. It was just it was so busy. He said, yes, you can. He said, just don't walk fast. He said, there's no crosswalks there, by the way. You just step into the street and walk very slowly, and the people flow around you like current in a river. It was amazing. We tried it, and sure enough, because people aren't going that fast. They're doing 15 miles an hour in their scooters, and they're all very obedient of their laws. I never saw anyone run a red light all that time. And Hanoi's 4 million people. Wow. And we start stepping across the street, and people just flow around us, and they smile and they wave, and it was just amazing. And once you did that a couple times, yes. Yeah. Once you got there and did that a couple times, you realize that this is pretty safe. Just don't do anything sudden. Don't run, don't jump, don't dart. Just kind of slowly flow into it, and they flow around you like water. And it was like we were there for I think 3 days in Hanoi, and crossing streets and things. It was like that every day. People were extremely friendly. Did
this all surprise you?
Oh, it stunned me. It stunned me. It stunned me to meet. Guys would come up to us that were in the Vietnam War as North Vietnamese Army.
The enemy.
The enemy, and shake our hands and say and welcome us to Vietnam. And
what'd that do to you?
Oh, it was stunning. It was just
put you back on your heels a little bit.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, and of course immediately very pleased that I wasn't running into any of this. I expected to actually see some anti-Americanism or some hatred or something. We went to a lake where John McCain had been taken out of the lake when he was captured, and they have a little monument there to him. Oh, no kidding. Not to him so much, but to his capture. And there's some propaganda goes on. They take you to the Hanoi Hilton and they tell you about how wonderful they treated all the American prisoners and all that. And we know it wasn't like that. But the people themselves, they put the war behind them. There were even a couple ladies who lost brothers and husbands, and they were very, very hospitable to us. You know, I mean, it was like that was then, and this is now. And got into some good talks to a lot of people, and I walked away with the impression that the U.S. is one of their key trading partners today. They really stress their relationship with the United States, with Singapore, Japan, Korea, Thailand, and Australia as being key to their foreign relations policies, and they were very concerned about China and China's dominance or China's demand to dominate the South China Sea right up to their shorelines, to claim that's all of ours, you know, and you're our little brothers and you just stay put. And they didn't like that at all. And in fact, at the end of the trip, this is 15 days later, we're in Saigon, and I said to we had a guide, and I said to him on the last day, you know, this is the 15th day, and we've come all the way from Hanoi to Saigon. I have not seen one Vietnamese soldier with a rifle. Where are they? And he said, they're all on the border with China. Everyone that has a rifle is on the border with China.
Oh, okay.
We're very concerned about China and what any intentions they may have toward us. And I said, I'm just stunned at what I'm seeing economically and everything. He said, yes, we're trying to, the government, the Politburo is trying to follow a market economy more or less based on Singapore. We like the Singapore economy, or the Politburo does. And the Politburo at that time were 14 members of the Communist Party. And they were very, very hands-off in terms of the businesses and things going on. There were just all kinds of television channels, almost more than I get here. Everyone had a cell phone. There's about 90 million people in the country, and there was 160,000 cell phone numbers and cell phones. Even guys on rickshaws had cell phones.
Sure.
They had all the those what do you call the Twitter and Facebook and all that?
Oh, the socials.
Social, yeah. None of that
Social
was
media.
restricted at all. No television, no movies, nothing restricted. And we hear complaints about that out of China.
Right.
None of that was going on in Vietnam. And just a comment, from Hanoi to Saigon, walking the streets of Hanoi with Pat Murphy, never saw a homeless person. In the entire trip, never saw a beggar. And we saw two people we thought were beggars, and we needed help from one of them, and he wouldn't take money. He helped us in Saigon, and we tried to reward him, and he said, I don't take money. I'm not a beggar. He said, I work for a living. And one other guy was like that also. The first guy was missing a leg. The second guy who helped us was missing both hands.
Oh, wow.
They had been out collecting medals in the fields later on, and they were younger. They were in like their 30s and 40s, and had run into old mine fields and things, and had blown off a leg or a hand or that kind of thing. And that still, unfortunately, goes on there. And so, and the third thing is, in the entire trip, I never saw an overweight person, and that really stunned me.
Wow.
In all those places, and yet everyone was very healthy. Everyone was eating well. We went to an orphanage of literally hundreds of children, and they were eating really well. We happened to overstay. We were supposed to be there in the midday and then leave, but we got all involved with the kids and all that, and ran into their dinner time. And so I saw what they fed them for dinner, and I was extremely impressed. It was run by Buddhist nuns, and it was up in the town of Hue, and very, very impressive how they were taking care of the kids. Very happy group of kids. And
we need to take a break.
Yeah.
Let's do that, okay?
Yeah.
Al Cornell, Vietnam veteran in studio today. I'm Paul David. This is Countywide. We'll take a quick break and be right back.
I would steal pills from my friend's mom.
We talk about all the common drugs, but never prescription medication.
I was addicted to pills.
Had I more knowledge, I would have done things differently.
Secure your medications and talk with your kids. Visit drugfree.org.
Thanks for calling the GED Pep Talk Center. Jerry Stiller speaking. Your level 7 in-your-face pep talk.
I can keep pushing you. Believe me, I'm good at it. But at some point, you're going to need to start pushing yourself.
See, once you've got your GED diploma, you'll feel so good about yourself.
You tell them. You can't change your past, but you can definitely change your future.
That makes me so happy, I'm ready to bust out a dance.
Mr. Trejo, can I transfer this guy to you? My Jetzel technique isn't really working. You need something a little more
persuasive.
Yes.
You listen, and you listen good.
Hey, where's my sandwich? Terry? Terry!
Take it from me, the King DMC. It's a real cool thing to get your GED.
Get that diploma!
Now hold on and we'll find you free GED classes. Capiche?
Whatever motivation you need, we've got a pep talk for you. Get your GED pep talk and find free classes at yourged.org.
A single ember from a wildfire can travel over a mile. That ember can ignite and destroy your home or community. You can't control where that ember will land. Only what happens before it does. Visit fireadapted.org to learn how you can help protect your community from wildfires.
Ronnie had huge aspirations.
He knew he could get pills in the community.
He found his body in an apartment in Telford.
I never thought my son would take prescription drugs without a prescription.
Secure your medications and talk with your kids. Visit drugfree.org.
Welcome back to Countywide. We've got just a couple minutes left in the program. Al Cornell in studio with us today, Vietnam veteran. We're talking about his initial trip over there and then your revisit this last year. Anything really big that stands out? What about the language? Did you have trouble communicating with anybody over there?
Interesting. Very well-educated society. Very interesting university system. And in fact, since you mentioned that, we went to a university, the university in Dalat, and in fact, students escorted us around the university. And the reason they did it, they wanted to practice English with us. And so there'd be 2 or 3 of us with a couple of their students, and we'd just speak English for the afternoon, and we'd visit all the parts of the university. But all of them pretty well said that the best university in the country was in Saigon. It was the National University, and it was actually run by the government. And they said that was actually the best university in the country. And it was very, very reasonable to go there. It was something like $300 a semester or something like that. And yet, very highly, very, very good education. One of the things shocked me, being over there 2 years, and never realized this, the entire language is one syllable. The entire language, everything, every word. Every town, Vietnam, that's 2 words, it's not 1 word. Saigon is actually 2 words. Dalat is Da-Lat, it's 2 words. Hanoi is 2 words, Ha-Noi. The entire language is 1 syllable. And you'd think after 2 years I would have known that over there, but I realized how little I knew about the country until I went back.
Food. Tell me about food real quick. We got about a minute left.
Yeah, wonderful food. A lot of stir fry. A lot of fruits that you don't see here. Lychee, for example, wonderful fruit. A lot of pineapple, which is delicious. A lot of stir fry versus fresh salads. They're more into stir fry, and the foods are just wonderful and very reasonable. So when we had nights off and just went to very, very well-run local restaurants, the meals were extremely reasonable. And I think stir frying and the heavy emphasis on vegetables, not a lot of meat. Chicken and pork, don't see beef much at all, is why they're so healthy. Like I say, I never saw a fat person, but I never saw a hungry person. I never saw a homeless person. And they have such a wonderful culture of families take care of themselves. One of the most impressive things is age. The older you are, the more credibility you have in that culture. And if you see a really old lady sitting there and ask her how old she is, she just beams with a big smile because she wants to tell you her age. She wants to tell you, I'm 88, which means I have more credibility than this person over here that's 78, that kind of thing. Yes, you ask them their age and they really enjoy that.
We're out of time, but one more question for you. Would you go back?
Yes, in a heartbeat.
In a heartbeat. Al Cornell, thank you so much for your service and coming in today and helping us off with the show. I appreciate it. I'm Paul David. That's today's Countywide. We will talk to you again next time.
This has been Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Listen in each Tuesday and Thursday as we tackle the hot topics and talk to the decision makers across Yavapai County. That's Countywide with Brad Miller and Paul David each Tuesday and Thursday on this Yavapai Broadcasting station.